Hello, everybody, and welcome to another charla with Angeles Investors. My name is Jorge Pastrana, and I'll be your host for today's charla on the power of diverse angel groups and investing syndicates. Before I get to our esteemed panelists, I want to take a moment to thank our headline sponsor, BMO Harris Bank, whose support allows us to bring you all relevant content. And speaking about content, please feel free to check out our YouTube channel so you can access all of our previous charlas. For those of you joining us for the first time, I want to take a moment to talk about Angeles Investor, who we are and what we're doing. So Angeles Investors, we were founded in 2020 with the express mission to find, fund, and grow the most promising Hispanic and Latinx ventures. And we have made tremendous progress towards that mission. Since inception, we've invested over $5 million across 17 startups, and we recently co-led a Series A with A-Crew Capital for Canela Media. A lot of exciting things going on with Canela. We're also experiencing a lot of membership growth. Today, we're close to 100 members, and we expect to be close to double that by the end of the year. And as you can see here, we're becoming a national investing group, and we're looking forward to continue to expand our footprint across the U.S. And taking a moment here to say that you do not have to be Hispanic or Latinx to join Angeles. We welcome all accredited investors. So as you can see, Angeles is one example of the power of a diverse angel group. But now I'm happy to introduce our panelists of leading angel groups and investing syndicates. So today I'm joined by Gail Wilkinson, founder and managing partner at Vitalize Venute Capital. She also launched Vitalize Angels, the first angel network for both accredited and non-accredited investors. So big impact there on the non-accredited side. And she's formerly the founder and managing director at Irish Angels. When you put all that experience together, she's led over 65 million in early stage deals across over 100 companies. I'm also joined by Dr. Marlo Renter. She's an entrepreneur, anthropologist, and educator. So a unique and impactful grouping of titles. She's also the founder of Tech Founders Academy, which builds wealth and opportunity in Black communities by helping Black women reinvent themselves as tech founders. And she's also the co-founder of Commune Angels, who she's representing today. And finally, I'm joined by Jennifer Jeronimo, former executive director at JP Morgan and the current CEO of Gaingels, the leading venture investment syndicate representing the LGBTQ plus community and its allies. Welcome to all of our panelists. So I'm going to walk through a few prepared questions, and then at 5:45, a note for the audience, you have an opportunity to ask your questions. So as you listen along to our charla at any moment, feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and we will get to as many of your questions as possible at 5:45. All right, so I'm happy to kick off our charla. I'm going to start with Jennifer. If you can walk me through the story of Gaingels from community creation to now having around 500 million of assets under management. Jennifer.
Thank you. Well, first, I just want to say thank you for having a little bit about Gaingels history. So we started as an angel group back in 2014, founded by Paul Grosinger and David Beatty. And really, their mission was to invest in LGBTQIA founders, and within their community, that was largely the LGBTQ community. As you know, and then in 2018, we pivoted and we became a venture investment syndicate, and we were later joined by Lorenzo Thioni and Peter Steinberg. Now, in the beginning, it was awesome, right? We had great deal flow, and we were providing our members, our community, with access to deals that they wouldn't normally have access to. But as the years came on, grew, and our membership just kept growing, and our deal flow continued to grow, we realized that there was a business case to expand our mission and to really step more into assisting companies, not just companies with diverse founders, but to assist companies in amplifying, either creating or amplifying their diversity efforts. Listen, I think we all could agree that diversity, to change the landscape of our, of corporate America and the venture economy, it's important to have representation. And that's really what Gaingels' mission is about. It's about providing representation at the portfolio companies that we invest in. So some of the initiatives that we have with our companies is, one, we ask them to sign a Gaingels letter. That Gaingels letter talks about their diversity priorities and their policies. We ask them, it talks about their representation on their board, and it talks about philanthropic efforts that they will make within their local communities. And, not only that, but we also support them in finding diverse board candidates. So we will do that free of charge. We will do the end-to-end process for all of our portfolio companies. We will help work directly with the CEOs to write the job descriptions. We will source the candidates. We will set up the interviews. We will get them all the way till close. And then also, another thing we do is we have a jobs board, right, that hosts over 800 companies and 13,000 jobs for all of our portfolio companies. Because our portfolio companies know our members are diverse. And so it was really about expanding that mission, and it almost happened organically that the market just really wanted it, and we could see it in our growth. And so that's a little bit of our story of how we grew. Now, the difference between an angel group and a syndicate really is, for us, it's, an angel group invests in early stage companies, whereas Gaingels as a venture investment syndicate, we will do the early stage, but we'll go all the way up to pre-IPO. So it's about providing our members with access to companies that they wouldn't necessarily have access to.
Yeah, I appreciate the comments. Gaingels is covering a lot of ground and having a lot of impact, access to deals, and for founders, access to capital. Jennifer, I wonder if you wanted to highlight, I know, or seeing Gaingels 100, if you wanted to speak to that initiative.
Yeah, so recently we launched the Gaingels 100 book. And this is really highlighting diverse leaders and founders of companies, several of which we have invested in. And for us, again, it's about representation. It's about showing folks that, the venture economy really, is diverse, and it is changing things. I'll say this, right? Corporate America in 10 years will be what the venture economy is today. And so if we want to make changes within that venture economy, if we want to make changes to corporate America and the demographics and the landscape, then we need to start with the innovation economy, with the venture economy.
Yeah, definitely. We're on the leading edge. All right. Turning to you, Gail, you built one of the world's leading angel groups with Charlas Angels, and now you have a top performing venture fund with Vitalize Angels and Vitalize VC. Can you tell me more about your story, your history, and highlight the Vitalize platform?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jorge. So I am a failed entrepreneur times 2, and at the end of business school, after having both of those failures under my belt, had the opportunity to start Irish Angels. And I took a step back and said, I love the idea of starting a business to help others start businesses. And I didn't know what venture capital was really before I went to business school. So it was very new to me. But at the end of the day, it was all about learning how to find companies, how to do diligence on those companies, how to make investments in really great companies, and then help the founders. So over time, we grew Irish Angels to about 300 people and invested $50 million across about 80 portfolio companies while I was there, and concurrently started Vitalize in 2017 as a first fund, which was $16.3 million, which we just finished deploying at the end of last year. And we invest in early stage B2B software and future of work. So I actually stopped working at Irish Angels at the middle of last year. We had a fantastic new managing partner named Caroline Gash, who's running that organization now. And my role is specifically focused on vitalizing the future of work world. But we knew that we wanted to take what we learned at Irish Angels and help more people get access to this investment class of angel investing. So I'll give you my personal story really quickly. I only became accredited very recently, and I just think that it's really tough for people to reach that accredited hurdle. It took me getting married to do that. And that's really unfortunate because a lot of people should be able to put a little bit of their cash into this asset class. So Vitalize Angels is an organization of 350 people today that can invest in both accredited and, it can invest in early stage deals through our firm. And both accredited and non-accredited investors can participate for a low membership fee. And then the minimum investment is just $1,000, because once again, we believe that we can improve diversity and access by reducing those barriers to entry. And the cool thing is, of our 350 investors, 70% are underrepresented.
No, yeah, speaking underrepresented background, still working towards accredited status, big impact being able to have a platform like yours. So I appreciate that, Gail. And, finally, changing over to Marlo, you co-founded this leading angel community in Commune Angels, which looks to leverage diversity and inclusion to expand access to angel investing and capital. Can you speak to us, about the origin story of Commune Angels and how it's going?
Absolutely. So I think what's interesting about Commune is that we started with 5 folks who were all entrepreneurs, and also all folks who are part of the entrepreneur ecosystem being part of entrepreneur service organizations, from kind of smaller service organizations to being like a startup attorney to, having more of the technical side. So we had a little bit of diversity in terms of our backgrounds, but we all had a lot of love for founders. And what we understood was that not every institutional money wasn't really being invested in an equitable fashion. And we got together and really thought about what would it be like if we created an angel network that focused on inclusion as part of its thesis. Real inclusion from, having a certain level of gender and ethnic diversity, even having geographic diversity, because we found, like, we're in the state of Michigan. I don't know about every other state, but a lot of folks in smaller angel groups tend to just focus on their geographic area. We wanted to make sure that we were being more inclusive in the way that we looked at that. So after we created this organization, which we started in August of 2020, what we found was that by having a real different group of people in the room together, from the president of a hospital network to somebody who did pharmaceutical sales, all different age groups, different racial identities and backgrounds, we found that the discussion and the experiences that people brought as they examined companies, examined different opportunities, people were really able to pipe in and say, hey, based on my life experience, I can say that there's a real opportunity here. Or, hey, maybe you don't know about this, but as a salesperson or somebody who's doing manufacturing, this is the kind of thing that I can contribute. So for us, Commune has really been about creating a community of angel investors who are interested in kind of using the experiences that each other have to get better returns, and ultimately to be able to, introduce a whole new asset class for our folks. Actually, in 2021, we have about 31 people in our group right now. 20 folks in our group made their first angel investment. And so we found that really this is opening up, and we're kind of increasing the pie rather than trying to like shuffle people around from different groups, and introducing folks into something that, frankly, they had never been approached with. We even had somebody that was, in finance talking to people who are CEOs, and they just felt really kind of bad. Like, why did anybody ever talk to me about this? And, a lot of times if you're in a different gender or racial group, then it's hard for somebody to say, hey, let me tell you about this. This is something that I do with my friends afterwards, after golf or something like that. Those connections don't always happen. So we think that we're making an interesting impact with the people that we're we're bringing into this group, as well as obviously the founders who are finding that we're just a lot more open because we have these varied experiences that we're able to say, okay, I can connect with that and I can see how I can invest in that.
Yeah, thanks, Marlo. Great points to highlight. Yeah, part of the power of the angel groups, right, is access to deals, but also making better informed decisions by being educated and sharing knowledge amongst the different members of the group. So definitely a great point. The next question I have for you all hits close to home for analyst investors. There was a recent report that came out that said that early stage funding for Latinx founders dropped, from 2020 to 2021. It was 1.5% and 1.2. Now it's down to 1.2%. So disappointing results. So thinking about Latinx founders, but also thinking more broadly about diverse founders in general, why is it important to support diverse founders through investing? And we can start with Gail on this one.
So this is a really important thing for us to talk about. I've been doing venture deals now for almost 10 years, and the percentages haven't gotten better. They've gotten worse for underrepresented founders. Why is that? It's because the late stage capital is largely going to the same networks. The same LPs are investing, the same GPs are investing in the same founders. And it's systemic, and it continues to happen. So it's great now that we have angel groups like ours, and we have micro funds of emerging managers. So these are women, people of color, LGBTQ+, others who are running funds that in much higher numbers than we've ever seen before, which is fabulous. But it's such small checks that we need to find a way to get more capital to these founders. Even when I look at deals, I have to think about, will the big funds fund this founder afterwards? And it's a really unfortunate position to be in until all along the capital stack, we have to think about making changes. And we're seeing it at pre-seed and seed. I'm hopeful that we'll start to see it at Series A, B, and into the growth stages too, because that's really what we need, as well as at the LP and the LP seeds to start to make real impact that is lasting in the industry.
Definitely open it up to Jennifer or Marlo for follow-up.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us know the business case as to why we want to invest in diverse leaders, right? Companies that have diversity outperform. It creates diversity of thought, helps you attack problems from a different perspective, right? It's interesting. You constantly hear that stat of in 2042, anywhere between 2042 and 2044, right? The minority is going to be the majority. And so it's where we need to, if companies want to succeed, they need to represent that, they need to understand the people they represent and the people that they serve, right? And so it seems like an obvious thing, right? That why, investors want to invest in companies that make money, right? They want to make money. There's Harvard, the McKinsey report that tons of stats that show diverse organizations outperform, have better cultures. And so that's why it's super important. And those companies that don't get it, right? It's only going to come, it's not like on the eve of 2042, all of a sudden now the landscape is going to change. The landscape is changing now, right? And so it's really important to invest in these companies because that's going to be the companies of the future. And that will be, and I'll say this a lot, that's going to be corporate America in 10 years, right? And so that's why I think it's so important.
Yeah, and just to build on that, I think representation is the language that we use, but opportunity is also something that we need to put out there. Like, the folks who knew about TikTok, the first folks who knew about crypto, all those folks who knew about it years and years ago, it's because they were tapped in a different way than they established folks. So if you want to build in feelers into what's going to happen next, what's happening now that you have no idea about, and that you will have no visibility to, it's really just smart business for you to understand that innovation is going to come from those spaces, and somebody's going to get there. Somebody's going to make that money. The question is, are you going to be out innovated because you just didn't have the visibility because you didn't have that representation. You were invested in those companies that basically could solve those problems.
Right. Yeah. So moving beyond just a social good, thinking about networks, connection, performance, and returns, and investing in diverse founders. And continue along that thread. Want to ask you all about the impact and benefits that you have realized so far in startup investing for your diverse communities. So I can start this one with Jennifer.
Yeah, so lots of benefits, right, that I've seen. It's, I have the greatest job, I feel, right? Is hearing the stories of how we're moving the needle, or we're changing the landscape, or we're helping diverse founders or diverse members understand the asset class. When I think of a few things that come to mind around some of the benefits that I've seen just through the Gaingels efforts, right? We've helped lots of companies find diverse board members, their first diverse board member, right? And that's hugely beneficial to moving the needle. We have created and deployed a scholarship program for 35 LGBTQ students. And we also hear just amazing stories, right? I recently had, I won't mention the company, but a CEO that we invested in. We invest, I think it's important to note, we've invested in over 1,000 companies and we have over 2,500 members. And so we do have a fair bit of influence, right, at this point to help sort of move the needle. But we're still the syndicate, right? We're still, we're taking a piece of the allocation. But when I hear stories from a CEO telling me, you know what, my people are more excited that Gaingels is on the cap table than the lead investor who everybody knows and loves and wants to be a part of. Because one, they know the investors can be their family members and look more like them and are more like them. And two, they know that our company is passionate about diversity. And it's a statement when you give us a piece of your allocation, because our check writers are the smaller check writers in some cases, right? And so it's been really exciting to hear those stories from CEOs, or CEOs telling us that, we really help them move the needle on their diversity initiatives, or help them find, a diverse leadership person on their leadership team. That every day I go, that's why I do my job, when I get those stories. And those are some of the benefits that we've seen through our efforts.
We're still, I would say that we've had some smaller benefits of just having CEOs in the room or startup founders in the room being seen. Like they're working on this problem. Nobody else sees it. We see it because, we understand. I think that's a big deal, especially in early stages where it still feels a little crazy to do what it is that you're doing. But I also think that we're going to have bigger impacts in unexpected ways. We were at Commune, our founders really inspired by what is happening with the Black Angels group that's coming out of Google. So there's a number of folks who are at the executive level at Google who have just recently created an angel group and out of their ERG. And one of the things that we thought was, we're starting to reach out and see how we can help companies who have ERGs, help them to create that, because there's some back end stuff that, frankly, is not a non-sexy kind of task. And so we think that we'll be able to be a little bit innovative in helping those employee resource groups in corporations to do things like that. And I think that that's kind of a different way of creating impact. And I believe it is certainly a way for them to connect kind of at the higher level, the folks who are, they've made a big investment with them in the company, and for them to be connected at an investment level, I think is just an interesting way to make an impact in unexpected way.
I can give 2 case studies really quickly about why I think it's important for all of us to invest in diverse founders. So we don't have a mandate at Vitalize, but over half of our portfolio companies, both deals and dollars, go to underrepresented founders. And in our angel group, it's much higher. 7 out of our 8 deals we've closed so far have underrepresented founders. I talked to 2 founders recently. One got to 300K of ARR off of about 450,000 of investment, and the other one got to 120,000 of ARR off of $155,000 of investment. These are both underestimated founders, and they have really great visions, and they have really great growth. And unless people like us look at those businesses, they never have even the potential of getting big. So we have to take these at bats and then help the companies. And I love what Jennifer and Marlo have said about adding value after the investment. That's critical as well for these founders.
Yeah, no, definitely agreed. To Jennifer's comments, thinking even beyond investments, right, to board seats, scholarships, and on the board seat front to all the analyst investors members out there that might be listening and thinking about board membership. Might be an avenue. And then to Marlo's point, I never thought about that. You bring up Black Angels out of the Google ERN. That's an interesting idea because I sit on the 3M Latino Resource Network board. We recently had a brainstorming session, and I would never had thought to bring that forward. So great idea, Marlo, on that front. All right. So now that we've heard, a little bit about your organizations, the impact you're having, what's next for each of your organization, and how do the people that are interested, that are listening today, get involved? And I'll start this one with Marlo.
Sure. So I think, given the fact that we're trying to kind of grow the pie, introduce people into this new asset class, we really focused this year on membership, the membership experience, and education. With our group, everybody that's a member of Commune Angels is also a member of the Angel Capital Association. So, we definitely try to leverage the resources and things like that they offer. But also we look at it from the situation of there are a lot of people who sit in our group who have never made this kind of investment for, never taken some big chunk of their money and put it in a place where it could completely go to zero, or it could be completely multiplied, several times. And so there's a cultural shift that has to happen that probably isn't being addressed in Angel Capital Association kinds of educations and webinars. So part of what we're doing is, connecting them to that, connecting them to the founders themselves. Fortunately, again, as the founders of Commune Angels, we're connected to the entrepreneurial ecosystem through our jobs at Entrepreneurial Hubs. We got an EDA or a U.S. federal grant to help train more emerging angel investors. So we're leveraging that and certainly helping not just the folks in our angel group, but people in the Great Lakes, just generally speaking, connect to more resources. So ultimately, we're trying to create more confident investors, people who feel comfortable to allow that to now become part of their culture. Maybe it wasn't a part of their culture before, to go ahead and write these checks, to have some confidence around it and understand, kind of what the asset class is. In order to connect with us, you can just check us out at communeangels.com.
At Gaingels, we've got a lot of great things coming for 2022. We're really doubling down on our diversity efforts. So we just recently launched a later stage fund. We had our first close a couple of weeks ago, where half of the management fees are going to go towards our venture inclusion program. And that program is all about expanding our efforts in diversity, for diversity, equity, and inclusion for all of our portfolio companies. So a couple of things we're going to do is we're going to have a Gaingels Fellowship program that will have, this will be our first inaugural year. We'll have that 12 individuals come into the organization, work with us for 15 months. We will give them a whole end-to-end. They will work in every department, in every group, really get to understand that asset class. And then we'll look to deploy them full-time post at that 15 months, either with Gaingels but more importantly, we'd love to get them into our portfolio companies. And so that's something we're looking to do. We're definitely going to do another version of the Gaingels 100 book because it's been really something that people have enjoyed reading. And I think it just shows sort of the power of diverse founders and what they're capable of doing. And then we're really going to look to step in more with our recruiting efforts. So helping more, not only with just leadership positions, with any position that one of our portfolio companies need, and so that those are some of the bigger things. I think if you want to get involved, right, I always say, regardless if you're an accredited investor or not, become a member. If you're not an accredited investor, there's plenty of events and programs that we put on for our what we call social members to learn about the asset class. You can come to our events and meet some of the founders that we've invested in. Network, expand your network. So I think it's something that I definitely strongly suggest folks do. I also think if you're looking for a job, go to the Gaingels website. There's a job board. If there's something that interests you, send me an email, Jennifer at Gaingels. I'm happy to make an introduction to the CEO. It's something that we're really passionate about, and that's just some of the ways folks can get involved.
That's awesome. So for us this year, it is a time for us to really solidify our offerings. So we launched in beta just last July. We have a new community manager named Larissa, who's awesome, and she and some of our other team members have migrated the group of 350 angels that we have to Circle. And then we're creating some recorded content for beginner and advanced courses around some of the basics that you need to learn from an angel investment perspective. We also have once a month AMAs and once a month networking. Everything is remote, though. We did test drive our first in-person event in Los Angeles last week, and we'll do a little bit more of that moving forward. And I just want to close by saying I think it's really important for everybody to figure out a way to get involved. Our fee is $149, which is pretty low. I know some groups are free, some might be a little bit more money, but it's such an investment in learning how to do this. I mean, just this week I talked to two very successful women, and both of them said, I don't invest. I don't have the money to invest, and I don't know their personal situations. However, I've learned over time that when we look different and we're not used to deploying our capital in this way, it's a scary thing. But the first step is to just join one of these groups or all of these groups. Just join and then watch, listen, learn. And then at some point you got to get your checkbook out and your pen. You got to write your first check. And then it may go well, it may not go well. And then you write your second check. And over time, you start to see, oh, that one went up and oh, that one went down, and you learn. And you have to just get comfortable. It's like going to the gym or learning how to do a sport. So getting involved is the number one most important thing for all of us.
Yeah, thanks for that. I'm getting the repeated thread here that it's about creating more seats and maybe even taking more seats at the table, right? Whether it's investing, leadership roles, board roles, like the comments around whether you're accredited or not, become a member, get educated, so that you can move forward more confidently. I know we have a few questions lined up, but I wanted to add to what you all have said around education. What are typical roadblocks, barriers that you see? Maybe it's skepticism from more diverse communities from wanting to get involved, and how do people get over that?
For me, I think it's the fear of the asset class, right? It's not public, so It's that I've invested in this company. When you're investing in a public company, you can see the price every day, and you've got the liquidity that you need, and you feel like you can get out if you need to. But what people also need to understand is that when you invest in a public company, that there is a lot more upside. And the earlier you invest, the greater the upside could potentially be. Yes, it's very risky. No one is saying that venture isn't, right? But it's another avenue. It's another opportunity. Listening to Gail and Marlo, I can't, stress it enough, right? It's learning about the asset class, not being afraid of it. With all of us, right? I've heard Gail say, I don't think she's got big minimum investments that she has to make, and the one thing that my own personal opinion, is I find it interesting how hard it is to, invest into a early stage company. Yet, there's penny stocks everywhere, and there's just as much risk there. But everybody can invest in penny stocks, right? It seems like the easy, great thing. And I would venture to say that venture is a better investment than a penny stock. And now I shouldn't say that, and I'm not giving any advice and all that fun stuff, right? But I think it's just the lack of knowledge and that fear, because, what you don't know, you don't know.
I think it's helpful if you have seen somebody do it in your community. Like if it's less theoretical. If you've seen somebody who's written a check, who's had a company that's exited, or written a check and it didn't work out and they keep writing the check, like, you don't necessarily, being a pioneer is kind of not the easiest thing to do. And so, what is it to be the first person in your circle to have heard of this, the first person in your circle to have written a check? That's honestly where what Gail and Jennifer said really, really count. Like, to be in the space so that you're not alone, to be, to have that particular community with you, will I think be very, very helpful. And also just being in a space with folks that look like you too. I mean, I deal with membership for Commune, and we've had more than one person who said, look, I've been in other angel groups and I just didn't feel right there. I didn't feel included there. I didn't see myself there. And it's a difference when you can come and, our first rule is you're on Zoom all day. We want you to come however you are, ask whatever questions you need to ask in order to feel comfortable. I think that's crucially important. And that's really part of like finding your space and finding your groove and kind of identifying yourself as an angel.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, I do think doing this as a community is really important, especially for underrepresented people. I remember in 2016 when I wrote my first check, it was direct, and that was a lot scarier than most of what I've done personally has been through various angel groups that I'm a part of. And so for Vitalize Angels, every single month we look at 3 to 4 companies that pitch. And if we get 50K plus of interest in any of those deals, we'll close those deals. So last month we saw 4 and only 1 is moving forward. But we only move forward with it and do due diligence, which we share with our investors if there's interest. And the investors know that our team has looked at hundreds of deals to get to those 4. And then the community picked the one of those 4. So our team couldn't even have known what our investors wanted to invest in. So there's a couple of safety features. And yes, you can still lose all of your money. So just remember, you could light it on fire. You can only invest any money that you can light on fire. However, I believe if you do it in a way through one of our groups or a group like ours, and you think about community and education and using the vetting of the resources as a community, it is much more likely that you'll find success.
Yeah, thank you all for the words of encouragement and highlighting the importance of community. I think in the comments here, or Salina Rivera highlighting, join a community, watch and learn, and write your first check. So great summaries for us, Salina. All right, so I think we can now transition to questions from the audience. And I know we have already some lined up, but feel free to continue to send questions our way. So first question from Roger: what categories of business are you currently focused on investing in? And whoever wants to jump in first here.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
I mean, we're pretty agnostic, right? We invest in any company that we feel is interesting and is, it's got a strong team, it's got good trajectory. Obviously, there are some, sexier ones, industries that I find our members gravitate towards, but it could be future of food, it could be B2B, it could be SaaS tech, fintech. We pretty much invest in just about every type of industry, as long as we feel like it's got some good team, good trajectory, it's got a good story, and our members gravitate towards it. It's very similar to Gail, right? If we don't have enough interest, then we can't invest. So it's predicated a lot of times on our members as well.
And actually, we're the same way in that we're a network, not a fund. So it's very kind of dependent upon the member interests. What we have found, though, is that our investments typically are those startups that demonstrate some kind of cultural mastery. And what I mean by that is they use insight into a specific culture as a leverage for competitive advantage. There's a company that's a media company that knows that their particular target company or target group doesn't do subscriptions. They don't do credit cards, so they are doing it a different way. There's other companies that we've had that just understand a little bit because they have a different perspective, because they have a different insight. They're able to leverage that and use that for competitive advantage. That's something that our members tend to be attracted to. But we've also had just, plain old deals from founders that have exited, successfully a couple of times that have worked for us as well. So high growth, great teams, and cultural mastery is kind of a good formula for us.
We invest in really early stage future of work deals at Vitalize. So think rounds of up to 2 million. Our check size is 50 to 150K in aggregate. Our investors put in anywhere from 1 up to, I think 10K is the most anybody's done so far, but we allow up to 25K. And the valuations tend to be, 5 to 8 post. So we're investing when they're post product, just starting to get to their very early revenues.
Awesome, thank you. Moving on to the next question from Pravash. Are you looking for expansion in emerging economies like India, BRICS nations? And we can start with Gail here.
No, and I think if we take a step back and look at the venture landscape, my personal thesis is that we have to be even more focused moving forward than less focused. And while I would love to do a lot of different vertical areas of focus in a lot of different countries and a lot of different stages, the more specific we can be, it allows founders to find us a little bit easier. It allows people who are co-investors to send us deals with greater regularity. So we will not be moving outside of the US in terms of the incorporation right now. But as long as the company is a Delaware C Corp, we will look at it even if the founders sit elsewhere.
All right. Jennifer, you have some comments here.
And, yes, we have invested in India, but very in a small way. There's also from our vantage point, right? You need to make sure, like every time we look at a company that's overseas, any country outside of the United States, right? you do have to check with your legal counsel, and you want to make sure that you're following the rules of that country. But once in a while, we will see an opportunity, and we'll make that extra effort, and it's something that we think our members want to see. But it's predominantly we're investing in companies in the U.S. And I agree with Gail. I think we like that focus right
now. All right, Marlo, any want to have your input?
No, I would just say that we're also U.S. We also deal exclusively with U.S.-based companies.
All righty, thank you. Moving on to a next question from Claudia. Where can Latino founders go to learn the fundraising skill sets needed to have a successful fundraising campaign? Any takers here?
Jorge, what are you guys doing anything at Angeles?
We for fundraising skills, I mean, and this is and this is in the context of aspiring founders, or then our Charla series is the best place to get educated. We have content around how to become a founder, what VCs look for. So check out our YouTube channel for that. If you are a current founder, feel free to reach out to us, admin@analyzinvestors.com. We can set up a meet and greet and provide advice that way. So
I would also say there are entrepreneurial service organizations all over the country and probably around the world, some of which are free, a lot of which are free, actually. Michigan SBDC will help you at least look at some of these. In Michigan specifically, we have a high growth team that is specifically, kind of focused on high growth and tech kinds of companies. But it also, I think, though I'm not kind of focusing on anybody in particular, I would say that it's in tech. I found that a lot of folks are much more focused on pitching than running the business, like the raise versus, the fundraising. And honestly, it can be a full-time job to be fundraising. But just it's important to make sure that you've done as much as you can to build the business, before you spend as much of your energy on building that business so that you can have some real stake instead of just all sizzle.
One tangible thing I can offer is if you go to my website, gale.vc, I offer monthly or every other month office hours with founders, and we do it in a group setting. So we've had really good feedback because you can hear the other founders' questions, and it's almost always about fundraising.
And I just add, right, it's about expanding your network, right? You can join any of these organizations, right? And there's events, and they'll have their founders there. We have a lot of our founders, and it's just about talking to folks. And I think Marlo said something that really resonated, though. I understand that fundraising can be a full-time job, but also making sure that you've got the right, you've got your business in order, and you've got sort of the right story to tell, and focus on that first before going straight into fundraising. I think that's important. Sometimes I see founders going straight into fundraising, but they haven't gotten that, their business plan really tight yet.
Yeah, and I think, Gail, you made a good point around office hours. It's great that you have those. It's a great idea, and just for the audience information, a lot of diversity-focused VCs do have open office hours if you do reach out to them. So, I'll look to maybe share some of those VCs that have those that are a great resource. Another thought that came into my mind, we had a charla around accelerators that are focused on like Latinx and diverse backgrounds. So check out that charla of the organizations that are involved with that. That's a good way to get help as well. But I appreciate the question and the answers from you all. All right. So I believe we've gone through the comments that we have from our audience. So thank you all for participating and engaging. I'll pass it, back to our panelists for any closing thoughts for today.
One thing I think is really important is to be strategic about, if you're a founder, be strategic about fundraising. That is, a lot of times angel groups actually put their information about what they are interested in investing in on their website. So don't have a scattershot approach. Do some research, look and see, check out the socials of the folks that you're talking to, see what they're interested in, and make sure that you also take advantage of the fact that there are pitch practice groups, kind of all over the place. I know in Detroit we have Venute Tech, but there are other places where all that exists, and listen to the questions that get asked, and make some adjustments, be coachable. And I think that, again, just focusing on the business at hand, making sure that you're actually, generating revenue, you actually talk to customers, and that you can speak to that. Those are real fundamentals, because folks are investing their, especially on the angel side, their own money. This is something that they're very serious about. So, certainly you want to, do as much work as you can to make it easier for folks to invest in you. And also, again, CommuneAngels.com. Like I said, all of us are all kind of connected in entrepreneurial service organizations. So we are definitely resources that can help founders, but we're also interested in helping emerging investors feel more comfortable, included, like they belong in the space. So we're very, very comfortable about that. And as a network, we have angels across the country. So we started in Michigan, but we have folks in in other states. So really want to open it up to you all, and also those in employee resource groups. If you're interested in having that kind of partnership or connection, we want to do that too. So I'm at Marlo at CommuneAngels.com. Thanks. And thanks for this platform. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I wrote down a couple things. So one, if you're a founder, another interesting thing you can do is join one of these groups. I think about 15% of our investors are founders. And when we ask for feedback on that, they're like, I want to see other people pitch. I want to hear the questions that investors ask. I want to see what's important. So it's a great learning opportunity. If you haven't been through an accelerator, an incubator, or a business school program, it's a great learning experience as a founder. The next one is, if you are kind of scared to get started, there's something called portfolio theory, which you can research. And it's all about figuring out the amount that you can light on fire every year. So maybe it's $10,000, and you should build to at least 20 to 30 deals over 5 years. Typically you want to do somewhere between 3 and 5 checks a year. So if you got 10,000, you might write $3,000 checks to get started. And you want to look at it as part of your income that you're not even going to touch. It's just like if you were putting it in your 401k or you're putting it into donations. This is a bucket you've earmarked beforehand, and going into the year you're going to make this many investments at this much, so that you give yourself permission to then go and actually write the check. And the last thing that I'll suggest is, once you start investing, tell your friends. I was raised to not talk about money. That was really, really frowned upon. But I mean, I will tell any of you how much I put into companies, what I've learned from it, what I've lost, what I think is doing well, like what I've learned from it. We have to start telling other people about it so that they can just learn and get the awareness to think about doing it themselves.
And I think these these ladies really said some, imparted some great wisdom there. I would just, remind folks not to be too scared, right? I think Gail is absolutely right. I'm going to use that a ton, like the money that you can light on fire for certain. But remember, right, part of the reason, and I know I keep using the word representation, right, but you need to be in the game to actually see those results, right? And to see what some other people think about the Ubers of the world. And listen, venture is risky. I'm going to say that again, right? And not everything is an Uber or a DoorDash, but it's but there is an opportunity there, and take advantage of it, and don't be afraid. And if you don't know a lot, there's so many resources, so many organizations that you can join, meet people, ask questions, and just watch, and learn, and then make your, I agree with Gail, get that checkbook out, make your first investment. It's great. And you know what else? You're investing in a company you believe in, right? And that's part of this as well. We're talking about investing in diverse founders, right? Be part of that community of investing in diverse founders. And then the only thing else that, is some of the things you look at is, especially in angel investing, right? The team, what was their experience, their previous experience, pull a little bit on their concept. Does it make sense? If you knew somebody in that arena or in that world, ask them a question. I hear a lot of people going into healthcare and like investing in healthcare, different companies, drug companies, pharmaceutical, etc. But talk to a friend that's a doctor, right? And ask them, is this something you would use? Or, and so there's a lot of resources out there that I don't think people realize that can give them the help to make your first investment. And, and you can reach out to any of these organizations, Gaingels, to get to add to your network so that you can ask those questions.
Awesome. Thanks for the closing thoughts. And I wanted to highlight one more thing here that I thought about from an educational perspective. I know Gail has a podcast series of her own that you can access for Vitalize. Gail, what's the YouTube channel for it?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I will tweet it. And Justin is our front man on that, and he's the best interviewer ever. So I'm not on all of them, but he gets some really cool guests in future of work and a lot of founders, a lot of VCs, and it's a lot of diversity, which is cool.
Great. Well, thanks, Gail. Thanks, Marlo and Jennifer, for joining us tonight and imparting your wisdom for our audience. Before we go, I want to highlight what we have upcoming for Angel's investors. So we're continuing to hit the road. We have upcoming pitch nights in Silicon Valley, Chicago, and New York City. We're also going to continue our speaker series. We have another charla coming up on March 24th, where Frank Carvajal will highlight his book on Latinx business success, and he'll be interviewing a couple of people that he's highlighted there. And then April 19th, we have a wealth creation series in partnership with the Alumni Society. It'll be the Columbia University edition. And we're also coming to cities near you. March 11th will be in Austin, the 24th in Chicago, and April 6th in Washington, D.C. And there's going to be more to come from there. So be on the lookout for us. And thank you. Special shout out to Commune Angels, Gaingels, and Vitalize for the time. And with that, I'll close up the charla. Everybody have a good evening. Appreciate your time.